What if one machine could decide a war before it even fired its first shot? Not because of a clever plan, not because of a hidden weapon, but because the moment it appears on the horizon, entire armies understand that the battlefield has changed, the rules have changed, and maybe their future has changed with it. In Warhammer 40,000, Imperial Titans are not just larger tanks or walking guns. They are god machines, city killers, symbols of ancient power, and instruments of terror so overwhelming that worlds can break at the sight of them alone. And tonight, we're going to explore why Imperial Titans change every war they enter, not only through firepower, but through faith, fear, scale, and the strange bond between machine, pilot, and empire. To understand why Titans change war, we have to begin with a simple truth about the Imperium. It is an empire that worships survival through overwhelming force. Everything in its military culture is built around endurance, attrition, sacrifice, and the absolute belief that if enough strength is concentrated in one place, the enemy will eventually break. Imperial Titans are that idea made visible. They are not efficient in the way a modern strategist might define efficiency. They are not subtle. They are not easy to build, easy to deploy, or easy to replace. But the Imperium does not see them as mere assets on a ledger. It sees them as holy relics of war, ancient god engines that carry the memory of lost ages and the authority of Mars itself. That matters because a Titan is never just a machine. It arrives with ritual. It arrives with myth. It arrives with the weight of the Adeptus Mechanicus, with banners, princeps, sacristans, moderati, engine seers, and whole traditions older than many imperial worlds. Where a regiment of the Astra Militarum may be respected, a Titan legion is revered. And where ordinary armor is measured by how many shells it can withstand, Titans are measured by the devastation they can survive while still advancing. The first reason Imperial Titans change every war is scale, but not scale in the simple sense of being big. Plenty of things in 40K are big. The galaxy is full of monstrous bioforms, armored super-heavy vehicles, starships, fortresses, and demon engines. Titans matter because their scale changes what a battlefield is. A battlefield with infantry, tanks, and artillery has certain assumptions. Cover matters. Mobility matters, choke points matter, local superiority matters. Once Titans are introduced, many of those assumptions begin to fail. A Titan does not merely move through terrain, it dominates it. Hills become firing steps, buildings become partial cover at best. Defensive lines that could hold against armored columns may be flattened in minutes by weapons designed to annihilate fortifications, vaporize companies, or shear apart enemy engines. A commander who prepared for a conventional offensive may suddenly find that his carefully layered defenses are not defenses at all, merely obstacles delaying something too large and too well shielded to care. Even the geography of war begins to shift. Roads capable of supporting heavy armor may be irrelevant if a Titan can simply stride over lesser barriers. Urban density, which often favors defenders, becomes a danger to those same defenders when plasma blasts, quake cannons, or volcano lances turn entire districts into burning wreckage. Forest lines, trench systems, and hardened emplacements all lose value when war is being fought by engines that can erase broad areas instead of precise positions. This is one of the key things many people miss about Titans. Their greatest battlefield effect is not just in what they destroy. It is in how they force every other participant to rethink distance, safety, and purpose. A battle line no longer exists on the same terms when a Warlord Titan can engage from extreme range with weapons capable of smashing through bunkers that would stop 100 lesser guns. Armored breakthrough no longer feels secure when a Reaver can stalk the center of the war zone like a moving fortress. A concentrated infantry defense is no longer a sign of discipline. It may simply become an ideal target. And this effect begins before contact. Before the first shell lands, enemy planners must make choices around the possibility of Titan deployment. Where do anti-Titan assets go? How do you conceal them? Which districts can be abandoned? Which fortresses are no longer worth reinforcing? How much of your force do you commit to distraction, delay, or sacrificial interdiction? If a Titan is present, then the whole architecture of the campaign starts to bend around that fact. The second reason Titans change every war is psychological impact. In Warhammer 40,000, morale is not a side note, it is everything. Armies fight in impossible conditions. They endure horrors that should shatter reason. Faith, terror, fanaticism, and despair are operational realities. Titans operate directly in that realm. They are engines of destruction, yes, but they are also symbols, and symbols can break armies as surely as weapons. Imagine being a line soldier on some ash-choked world, already exhausted, already half-deaf from shelling, already aware that your officers are lying when they say reinforcements are coming. Then through the smoke, you hear it. Not an explosion, a rhythm. Tremors in the ground, a slow, colossal footfall. Then another, then another. Sirens, vox traffic turning frantic, priests shouting prayers. The horizon itself begins to change shape, and out of the dust comes a silhouette taller than hab blocks, draped in Mechanicus iconography, carrying enough firepower to level the district where you stand. At that moment, the battle is no longer abstract. It has become personal, mythic, and immediate. This is why Titans can rout forces that still possess weapons and numbers. They convince the enemy that resistance has entered the realm of futility. Not always, of course. In 40K, there are many factions too stubborn, insane, fearless, or alien to break in ordinary ways. But even they must react. A Titan compels reaction. It imposes psychological gravity. Human defenders may panic, militia may flee, cultists may scream in worship or horror, and even veteran soldiers may experience the dreadful realization that the enemy has escalated beyond anything they can answer directly. For the Imperium, the reverse is equally important. Friendly morale rises in the presence of Titans. To Imperial citizens and soldiers, these engines are not just war machines. They are sacred manifestations of the Omnissiah's wrath and the Emperor's dominion. Seeing one on the battlefield can transform a collapsing defense into a zealous stand. It can make troops believe that Mars has taken notice of their suffering, that the battle matters, that salvation has come in adamantine form. That belief has military value. And in the Imperium, belief is often more durable than logistics. This leads us naturally to the third reason Titans change every war. They are not isolated units. They are centers of gravity around which other forces organize. A Titan battlefield is a networked battlefield. Skitarii scouts identify approach lanes and targets. Tech priests perform maintenance rites and monitor sacred systems. Infantry screens vulnerable sectors. Armor supports flank security. Artillery coordinates suppression. Aircraft attempt to contest enemy bombers or anti-engine strike craft. Entire command plans are rewritten so the Titan can either spearhead the advance or anchor the line. That means a Titan changes not just combat power, but command structure. Commanders must think in layers. A Titan can overmatch vast zones of the battlefield, but it cannot be everywhere. It must be guided, protected from swarms, shielded from sabotage, supported with information, and integrated into broader objectives. This creates a strange paradox. Titans are enormous, imposing, and godlike. Yet they also generate a protective ecosystem of smaller units. A Titan can devastate an enemy armored brigade, but a determined assault by infiltrators, engine hunters, sappers, or dedicated anti-Titan teams can still threaten it if support collapses. So the appearance of a Titan transforms lesser units around it. Infantry near a Titan are not just line infantry anymore. They become escort elements, objective holders, perimeter security, and spotters. Armor is no longer just armor. It becomes screen, reserve, harassment force, or counter-ambush tool. Air assets stop behaving like free-roaming hunters and become guardians of a priceless relic of war. Even logistics change, because the operational tempo of the campaign begins to revolve around where the Titan can go, how long it can sustain combat, and whether its repairs can be managed in theatre. The Adeptus Mechanicus understands this deeply, and that is one reason Titan legions have always occupied such a unique place in Imperial warfare. A Titan is not lent casually. Its deployment is a statement of necessity, prestige, and doctrinal seriousness. When a Forge world commits Titans, it is not contributing a mere detachment. It is signaling that the conflict matters at a level beyond ordinary planetary war. To appreciate that, we need to talk about where Titans come from. Imperial Titans are inseparable from the Adeptus Mechanicus and from the deep technological memory of humanity. Their origins stretch back into the ancient past, into eras when human civilization possessed capacities now only dimly understood. By the time of the Imperium, Titans are not mass-produced machines in any casual sense. They are ancient patterns, sacred constructions, maintained through ritualized technical knowledge, and bound to the cult beliefs of Mars. Each one is a relic as much as a weapon. This age is important. When a Titan marches, it carries history. Some engines have served through campaigns spanning centuries or longer. Their hulls are marked by heraldry, kill tallies, battle honors, repairs layered over older repairs, and machine spirits shaped by long service and trauma. Their crews inherit not just duty, but legacy. The princeps who commands a Titan does not simply climb into a cockpit. He or she enters into communion with a machine spirit whose will can be intense, proud, wrathful, and difficult. This is another way Titans change war. They are fought not only with steel and plasma, but with ritual identity. In 40K, ritual identity has practical effects. The Mechanicus does not maintain Titans like ordinary hardware, because the Imperium no longer treats advanced technology as transparent, flexible, and easily reproducible. Instead, machines exist in a semi-sacred relationship with their users. Maintenance is liturgical, interface is spiritualized, repairs are acts of reverence. On a rational level, we can say that the Imperium has preserved fragments of engineering procedure inside religious forms. But within the setting, those forms matter. They create discipline, hierarchy, and continuity. They also shape how Titans are deployed. A Titan is therefore a weapon that comes with doctrine rooted in religion, tradition, and ancient prestige. That gives Titan warfare a distinct character. Commanders cannot simply think, "We need more firepower, send the big walker." They must negotiate with or accommodate Titan Legion priorities. The Princeps and Legio Command may pursue objectives based on strategic logic, but also according to honor, established oaths, Mechanicus interests, or the perceived will of the Omnissiah. On some battlefields, this can create friction. On others, it creates an almost terrifying sense of inevitability. Because once a Titan Legion commits, it does so with ritual certainty. Now, not all Titans are the same, and the variety among them explains even more about why they alter warfare so dramatically. Of Titan, each occupying its own role in the hierarchy of destruction. The smaller Warhound Titans are often scouts and hunters, fast by Titan standards, built for flanking, pursuit, and coordinated strikes. They are still towering engines of war, still incomprehensibly dangerous to ordinary troops, but compared to their larger cousins, they are leaner, more agile, and often used in pairs. Warhounds change war through speed. They can outrun expectations. They appear where the enemy thought only tanks or infantry could move. Their weapons can savage armor, obliterate infantry concentrations, and pursue breakthroughs with predatory aggression. In battlefield terms, Warhounds turn Titan warfare from slow-moving dominance into active hunting. They can probe weak points, exploit sensor data, and range ahead of larger god engines. If a commander is fighting one Warhound, he may already be too late, because the Warhound is often there to reveal, harass, and mark targets for heavier engines. Then there is the Reaver Titan, often seen as a brutal balance between power and flexibility. Reavers are large enough to serve as line breakers and city smashers, yet adaptable enough to perform multiple battlefield tasks. A Reaver can lead assaults, duel enemy engines, crack fortifications, and remain mobile enough to respond to changing conditions. If the Warhound is a predator, the Reaver is a conquering champion. It does not simply observe battle, it imposes battle. The Reaver changes war because it can define the central struggle of a campaign. Many battlefields are not won by speed alone or by long-range bombardment alone. They are won by a force that can enter the heart of resistance and tear it open. Reavers excel at that. Their very presence compels concentration of enemy effort. If a Reaver advances on a hive gate, a shield line, a mountain bastion, or an armored spearhead, then the defenders must answer it. They cannot ignore it. They cannot merely delay it while focusing elsewhere. A Reaver is too capable, too disruptive, and too dangerous to be left unchallenged. Above them towers the Warlord Titan, perhaps the image most people think of when they imagine an Imperial Titan. Massive, heavily shielded, and mounting catastrophic weaponry, the Warlord is not simply a combatant. It is a battlefield institution. A Warlord can anchor an offensive or defensive front nearly by its own presence. It can absorb punishment that would annihilate lesser engines. It can prosecute targets across huge zones, and it radiates authority in a way few other war machines can match. When a Warlord enters a war, it often shifts the campaign from maneuver to confrontation. Objectives that were contested become vulnerable. Strongpoints become temporary. Entire operational plans can become obsolete because the Warlord can bring enough force to erase months of preparation. Against ordinary defenders, it can appear less like a machine and more like a moving apocalypse. Against enemy super heavies and hostile titans, it becomes the center of a duel whose outcome may determine the fate of cities. And then, in the highest reaches of Imperial excess, there are still greater engines, including the Emperor Titans of the Imperator class in broader lore memory. Walking cathedrals of war so vast that they blur the line between Titan, fortress, and mobile shrine. These are not common battlefield presences by any means, and their rarity only amplified their myth. If the Warlord is a battlefield institution, an Imperator is a civilization announcing itself through fire. Such an engine does not simply alter the local tactical picture, it alters the political and spiritual meaning of the war itself. Even speaking about larger classes reveals something central to Titan warfare. The bigger the Titan, the less it resembles an ordinary vehicle, and the more it resembles an event. Its deployment becomes a part of the story a world tells about its own crisis. People remember. Day a Titan crossed the horizon. They remember the districts flattened under its fire. They remember the banners, the thunder of steps, the shadow passing over hubs and cathedrals. Titans do not only kill. They leave memory scars. That legacy matters because war in the Imperium is often total, but it is also theatrical. Power must be seen. Authority must be demonstrated. Rebellion must be crushed, not merely in fact, but in symbol. Xenos invasions must be answered not only with resistance, but with proof that humanity still possesses terrible strength. Titans perform that function perfectly. They are the visible argument that the Imperium, however decayed, still commands remnants of the impossible. This brings us to another reason Titans change every war. They make escalation visible. Many conflicts in the Imperium begin with ordinary forms of violence. Patrol actions, raids, insurrections, siege operations, armored offensives, naval blockades. But once Titans appear, the conflict enters a new category. escalation becomes undeniable. The enemy knows that this is no longer a peripheral theater. Civilians know, allies know, priests know. The world itself seems to know, because the war ceases to fit inside normal human proportions. And visible escalation affects behavior. Planetary governors may panic or double down. Rebel cells may lose hope or become more desperate. Allied Imperial commanders may begin making riskier advances under the assumption that Titan support guarantees momentum. Enemy commanders may decide that conventional defense is pointless and pivot towards sabotage, assassination, lure tactics, or weapons of mass destruction. Some may abandon territory entirely and focus on preserving elite formations for a later phase of war. In each case, the Titan has changed the logic of decision-making. There is also the simple matter of durability. Titans are difficult to stop.